Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Catherine Stevens, and I am the Library Marketing Manager for APA Publishing. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to get started with the webinar. All right, so this webinar session is entitled APA PsycInfo Research Services. This is the second in our series of feature spotlights. So we will be highlighting a lot of really cool and exciting new tools today. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, we have a Q&A for this webinar. I'd love it if you would submit your questions here, and we'll address them live at the end. I have several colleagues on the line with me who will be able to answer any questions you may have. We have a couple polls that I'd love your participation in to share your experience. You can also elaborate on your experiences in the chat. Our recording, presentation, and resources will be available on demand following this webinar. So our agenda today, I will introduce you to APA PsycInfo and its research services included with the institutional subscription. My colleague Marta Soto will demonstrate how to access these research services, as well as demonstrate tools like Discover Dissertations, Topic Mapper, Author Mapper, and then we'll get into our Q&A discussion. All right, so poll number 1, we are going to go ahead and launch that. All right, so have you or users at your institution ever utilized APA PsycInfo research services? I'll give you a few seconds to answer. You guys are quick. Thank you for answering so quickly. All right, so we have about 80% participation. It looks like pretty even split. Some of you have, some of you have not, and others are unsure. And that's okay. That's what we're here to learn about today. So to start, we are going to jump into what is APA PsycInfo. So APA PsycInfo is our abstracting and indexing database of over 5 million peer-reviewed records. I believe the number is now 5.6 million records at this point. So it is the world's premier resource for psychological research and behavioral science research. We like to think of it as an ideal jumping off point for locating peer-reviewed research across many disciplines. So we have interdisciplinary content for psychology, business, healthcare, education, law, social work, and much more. All citations are available in APA style, so the formatting is there, it's done for you. You can access APA PsycInfo on any of the 4 vendor platforms, so our very own APA PsycNet, ProQuest, Ovid, or EBSCO. And an institutional subscription to APA PsycInfo includes access to AI and machine learning powered research assistance, which is what we are going to be discussing today. So getting into APA PsycInfo research services, these are the aforementioned personalized research services enhancing the discovery of the latest behavioral science research. They leverage AI to curate and recommend content based on users' research interests. And they also support you at your library and your ability to aid users throughout the research process. So this is a really useful tool for all types of researchers. So whether they be academic researchers, practitioners, students, graduate students, all stripes can use these tools. And as I said before, these are included as part of your institutional subscription to APA PsycInfo, albeit not within PsycInfo Classic, as we like to describe it. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Marta Soto, who will talk to us a little bit about how to access these research services.
Hi, Catherine or Patty, let me know if you can hear me okay?
Yep.
We can hear you.
Cool. So talking about access now, since we already got a question in the Q&A, I will say that this is one site that's the same, no matter whether you are a PsycInfo user of ProQuest, EBSCO, PsycNet, or Ovid. So everything we're going to describe and demo today is the same for everybody, regardless of where your PsycInfo access begins. So if your school has PsycInfo, which I believe is the case for most people on the call today, you already have these research services. So that's part one, right? They're coming already already complimentary for free as part of the PsycInfo access that you already have. It's based on PsycInfo, but we are also using this to connect you to additional content, things that are available open access, such as PubMed and PsyArchive, some conference information, to connect you to content beyond APA and beyond full text to get into some of those other publishers, journals, and databases. That's what your institutional email is for, right? So you can go right to the site because you have the PsycInfo access, log in with your institutional email, and that login is going to be good for 30 days. So you don't have to get the email from your code or the code from your email constantly, just once every 30 days to make sure you're still using that institutional email. The main way that this full text provided behind the scenes is going to be the get FTR service. This is why when you go here, you don't need to worry about a campus network login to a proxy or an open Athens. APA and the other major publishers are using this get FTR agreement, where basically checking your email address is telling the system which PDFs you should have the full text to. Right. So in general, APA is trying to connect you to the full text that you have already subscribed to as quickly and as broadly as we can. So again, get FTR. Some of you may be familiar with that already. For the rest of you, basically just your email is your access. We're going to see this in a bit once I start the demos, but just to give you the heads up, for every single resource in the research services, which is going to be mostly journal articles, books, and dissertations, you'll see a link to full text. Sometimes it'll be a little button that says view PDF, and you can just open that PDF in a new tab. In other cases, you'll see a link that says full text from publisher, and that will take you to a DOI page. Once you're on that DOI page, it's sort of up to the publisher and up to your own holdings what you'll see. Sometimes you'll get the full text PDF. Sometimes you'll get a prompt to log in. And if all else fails, you will see an option to purchase or get the ILL request. So in summary, APA's role in this for our research services is to discover content, much of which is already freely available to you. And then we offer the most direct linking to that full text that the publisher allows. So if APA is the publisher of the content, you'll always get that PDF direct link. So basically our research services, we can't override the licensing or the access controls of other publishers, but we'll get you as close as we can. And you will see examples of this again in just a moment. I hope this overall makes sense, just so you know as librarians that you don't have to think about proxy or single sign-on setup for this. It really is just the simple URL plus the email. If you have very specific questions about how your access is set up, feel free to put them in the Q&A box. Some of them might require me to do a like an email follow-up depending on the nature of your question. But we will kind of focus on the tools now and then circle back at the end if there are more questions about access. I see a few people have been raising their hand. If you have something to say, it's best to put it into that Q&A box. When one of us is presenting, there are several others on the call who are able to sort of type and reply to some of your questions. Okay, Cambria. Sorry, Catherine, I think it's time for our next poll now.
It sure is. All right, so we have our second poll. Has AI made an impact on research and learning at your institution? If so, you could share details with us in the chat. And by the chat, I mean Q&A. So let me launch that poll now. All right, with about 77% participation, it looks like over half of you say yes, AI has made an impact on research and learning on your campus. Some say no, that's okay too. And then some also say somewhat. So thank you for your insight there. And with that, these are the features and tools that we will be going over for Marta's demonstration. So to start, we will have Discover Dissertations, which will be kind of our jumping off point. Then we'll get into Topic Mapper and then Author Mapper. And then I will turn it over to you, Marta.
Sure thing. Go ahead and stop your screen share and I'll start mine. Awesome. Thank you for the great intro. So yeah, you should be seeing this PsycInfo Research's home screen. I'm going to go ahead and drop this link into the chat. You can just go directly here because again, you don't need to worry about like proxy authentication or anything like that. I'm also going to request if one of my teammates can drop the slides into the chat, just to make sure that everybody can have a copy to follow along or to take when our time together is done. Okay, so this is the homepage of our PsycInfo Research Services. Again, this is the link. I've put in my email in the past 30 days, my institutional email, so it's recognizing and remembering me. And to emphasize again, no matter which version of PsycInfo, whether you're PsycNet, EBSCO, ProQuest, or Ovid, this is the same page and it's going to look the same for everybody. And that sure makes me happy as a presenter because I only have to do it the one time. So on the homepage, again, we're talking about our particular tools today. From the poll, it sounded like there was a mix of people who had used this before and others who were newer. I'm an old-time user since I'm on staff here, but if you're very new, you might not have any notifications set up yet. So anybody can always start right here in this Discovery Tools section. Today, we're going to choose dissertations as the place to discover. So again, if you're an old-time user, if you've set up preferences or you have received notifications, you're seeing that bit first. I will, at the end, explain how you can set up preferences and get notifications if you're interested in doing so. But for now, it's sort of, this is what we have for returning users, notifications, dissertations you may be interested in. This is the first place that we're seeing some of that AI come in, where it's remembering not only the topics I've selected as my interest, but also the types of research I've clicked on before. So the more you interact, the better the AI recommendations get based on their like topic mapping. But if you're new, you can start towards the bottom of the page where you're going to see the most viewed, the top 10 dissertations. And then finally, our first feature or tool of the day, which is actually discover dissertations and then browse all dissertations. So this is all the dissertations in PsycInfo. So this page would look the same for any user starting out. I can go ahead and start adding some topic words and filters to make this a little bit more focused, right? So we're going to see as I enter any changes, the numbers of records that match is going to start going down. So my topic term here is workplace health. I'm going to select past 5 years. For topics, you have the option to load more 10 at a time. These topic and author lists are long enough that it might be a little bit impractical to try to view all. So you can start searching for a topic or part of a keyword or phrase, bring all those up to the top. So what I'm going to do now is select just a couple that are relevant to me. And we see now the total number has gotten much more reasonable. You can use the same trick in authors, start searching part of a last name to bring them up to the top. But I think this is a good search for now. It's showing me up here what I've set, and I'm going to scroll down to results. So far what we did was we're on a page that's showing all the dissertations, and now we're seeing results. Each of these little cards represents one dissertation. We see up at the top the little tags, the year filter and the topic, how we got here. There's the option to view a little more of the title, view a little more of the abstract. And then of course, here's that first example of a full text from publisher link. So I'll open that so you can see what it looks like. So as you may know, ProQuest is the primary owner and provider of a lot of these dissertations. With my APA access, I can see the first 25 or 24 pages of this PDF. However, based on your institution and your institutional email, you may have the ability to see the full PDF, right? So basically, it's checking my email and giving me the access that my institution provides, and that might vary a little bit based on which institution you are coming from. But yeah, that full text, very prominent, very easy to find, and it takes you right to the web page where you would find that full text. We have the option to sort by title, author, or publication year. So it's defaulted to the newest. We can switch it up to the oldest, again, the oldest within range. And there's a few different ways to start walking back your search. If I wanted to set up a new different example, I can reset the years. I can X out just one of the topics. Or finally, I can click Start Over, which is going to clear all filters and also all keywords. So now I'll search for this keyword, coping. And now we're going to actually open up one of the dissertation records so you can see what that looks like. All right, sorting it the other way now. So again, this is the full text link. And if I select the title, it's going to take me from this dissertations page to a specific record page that's all about this one dissertation in particular. Okay, so here we are, this dissertation record page, full text link again. The core of this page is basically just the same sort of classic metadata that you'd find in the regular PsycInfo record. That's all here for you as well. And this is part of why I feel comfortable recommending this particular AI service, because the AI topic mapping, drawing connections between records, is based largely on the metadata that comes from PsycInfo, right? So this is not like a ChatGPT situation where the AI is just out on the web and looking at Reddit posts and looking at other AI's output, right? You can say sort of garbage in, garbage out. And because we have this wealth of data, those 5 million professionally indexed PsycInfo records, to have that as the base to build the AI on, the related content, it's all academically valid because we're sticking within PsycInfo, and it is also a successful language model because it's based a lot on our APA thesaurus. So again, we have the classic data here from PsycInfo. At the bottom of the page, we'll have 10 related content posts to what I've just selected. So another example where, again, the classic PsycInfo data and the AI recommendations on top of it are working together. So pretty much any record or item page you land on is going to look like this. It'll have the PsycInfo information, it'll have the related content. Oh, I'm going to pause right here so we can see a couple other examples of how the full text linking works. So we already saw full text from publisher. This is where I'm going to select view PDF. So this is from Springer, and it's just giving me this PDF directly based on what I have institutional access to. This one recognizes that it's from Google Scholar. So it's taking me there to go on to the, well, as much of the PDF as I personally have access to. So the labels may differ, but it's always in the same place in one of these record cards, and it's always going to take you as close to the full text as is legally possible. Okay, but what we're really here to talk about is feature tool number 2, which today is Topic Mapper. So we'll open this up. Again, this Topic Mapper sort of begins with PsycInfo's thesaurus data. You might also see thesaurus terms in classic PsycInfo mentioned as index terms or subjects or subject headings. And then the AI is incorporating additional related topics for your discovery. So this is how a topic mapper is always going to look at the beginning. The center is the name of the dissertation, and this so far is pretty much just straight from PsycInfo. These are all thesaurus terms that were applied to this record from PsycInfo. So this again came directly from the classic database, but once I start interacting, that's when the AI enhancements come in. So I'm going to select this term, and then this is going to appear as the center of the node. Oh yeah, the node in the center, I should say. We have a little key or legend right here. So you can see that there's broader terms above, related terms to the left, narrower terms to the right, and they have their different colors. So to have this topic in the center, it's showing me the top cited articles for this index term in PsycInfo. So I can choose to export this list of the top 50. So that's based on topic mapping, right? We started with the dissertation, and now we have 50 additional leads that are very popular, top-cited on this same topic. We can also use the topic mapper to discover other new topics. So I might select now mindfulness-based interventions. You can see on the bottom, it's keeping a tally of how many PsycInfo records there are that use this. So now the top-cited list has changed. We've got another 50 to export, and also the graph is full. We've gone down far enough that we're also starting to see some of these narrower terms. You get a little bit of a scope note here, giving the definition for what exactly the middle term means. So this is all over in that left-hand menu. Based on what's in the middle, you get your top-cited list. You can get your information list. Sorry, the info is the thesaurus definition that's being pulled in. There's filters. So yeah, this is fun to play around with. Find your own sort of record to start with, discover some new topics that you can search by, or publications you want to export. And now what I'm going to do is use this top-cited journal article to take us into Author Mapper, which is our final topic for today. I know my colleagues are keeping an eye on Q&A. If there's like a big blocker level confusion that you want me to like restate something or go over it in a different way, I can do that. But if I'm not hearing from my colleagues, I'm going to just continue and we'll do questions at the end.
Hey,
Oh,
Marta. I do have a
Yes.
couple that I wanted you to kind of cover. One was someone asked about Boolean search. And then there was another question that may be more for, there was a question about dissertations being published in 2025. That may be more of a question for our content team. I didn't know if you knew anything about that. And then there
Gotcha.
was
I will circle
one more.
back to these.
Great.
None of them are like, I fundamentally misunderstand the tool and the
Oh,
access model. So yeah, thanks, Patty. But I'll keep going. I see the questions. I can answer some of them once I'm done talking. I'll start typing answers. Awesome. So here goes author mapper. Again, this is a record page. It's set up the same way. We'll follow this full text link just to see another kind of example. So now I'm in Wiley and they have the link to the PDF here. Right, so I don't have access in this case. I could check institutional logins or I could purchase. So again, this is my APA access. If your school subscribes to Wiley resources, you should be able to just download the PDF very directly. Okay, so again, we've got the classic metadata, the related content, and we have these record level tools for this journal article, right? So the dissertation, we saw topic mapper, and you might be wondering, how come this one also has an author mapper available? This is our final tool to talk about today. It's also the newest feature within these research services. It was released just a couple months ago, earlier this year. So the reason you're going to see author mapper on some, but not all records is because the author needs to have at least one other co-author in PsycInfo, right? So somebody who's just published a dissertation, that was probably their first professional publication. Dissertations don't typically have any co-authors, right? So they were very new to the literature. Whereas for this journal article, you can see some of the stats up here, good cited, good views, that this is somebody who probably has a much longer and more collaborative publication history. So we'll go open this in the author mapper. So this tool is highlighting the relationships between authors, the strength of those relationships, as well as the content and topics that are related in this filter. So you can see the setup is pretty similar to topic mapper. It looks even more similar to the citation mapper, which you can play around with. In this case, the central node is an author. There's her name up there. There's her name here. And it's giving, again, a list of her, all the articles and chapters that this person has published within PsycInfo. So we're opening up the key right now. There's two main things to look for. The thickness of the line between two authors shows more publications, and the size of the circle shows that that author has a lot of publications, whether or not they were with Shauna Shapiro. So I'm going to find an example. So this is the thickest line. We see Linda Carlson's a very frequent co-author. So this is the way, if we really like Shauna Shapiro's work, we can look at their most common co-author, and then, get a new list of publications for them as the discovery tool. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can read. I also see that Paul Mills here has a large circle. It means he's had a lot of publications. So if I hover, it shows the relationship between him and our central author, Shauna Shapiro. It also shows a few other co-authors that they both have in common. So this is just from hovering. If I click once, I see the stats on this author, how many citations and how many publications, quite impressive. So if I double click, we're going to get a whole new author mapper with him at the center. So again, PsycInfo has 5 million records and even more millions of cited references. Something unusual that we do in our indexing for a non-full text database like PsycInfo is we preserve all those cited reference linkings. So this one I chosen as an example because it's absolutely huge, right? Somebody who has over 100 publications has a lot of co-authors. So what we might want to do is use these. So again, we've got his publications here. This is a case where we might want to use filters. We can select publication years to be more recent. Another nice tool is it shows you, like before you start typing, what the oldest and the newest years are, so you don't have to like guess and somehow create a nothing result. So it's gone down a little bit. In addition to the year filter, we also have the option for content type. I can say just journal article, though in this case, it's not going to make much difference. These are already mostly journal articles. But where I can really focus in is some topics, right? So I happen to know, based on researching this demo, that Paul Mills has a more like biological psychology perspective. So I'm going to type in the word for blood coagulation, select that. And now we see a much more manageable author graph based on our chosen topic and our chosen time frame. Finally, methodologies is here again, so you can select one or multiple values if you want to focus even more. So you might notice the design of these filters is very similar to where we started with Discover Dissertations. The way you can search, the way you can select or load more, they're even the same colors. So hopefully that makes us a bit easier to navigate that throughout the different tools, regardless of their exact focus or size. You have the option to do some of these same limiters. And now that I've got his results list down from 100 to closer to 10, if I go back to publications, it's now only, oh right, that's 10 co-authors. It's only 4 documents, right? So now it's showing like a much more focused publications list to be focused on. Okay, so that was it for the final demo. I'm going to go back to the homepage and mention briefly some of the tools we have for more frequent users or those who are signing up with their preferences. And then we should have a ton of time for your questions after a few brief closing slides. So at any time, I can select this word mark and just go back to the homepage, right? So we started here in Discover PsycInfo, Discover Dissertations in particular. This is where somebody who's new can always get started. For me, I also have the option to return to my most recently viewed. And what I did when I was new to signing up is I went here to this preferences page. This is where you put in your institutional email, your name, and your current interests. So these were my initial topics that I started with that have continued to get AI enhancements as I continue playing around with the site and doing research. You can opt in or out of PubMed content. And then finally, if you are a published author or if you have users, researchers that are published authors, you can choose to be alerted over email whenever somebody has cited your work in PsycInfo. So if you have preferences set up, that means you will start getting once a week on Monday notifications. They come to your email, but like honestly, who reads all their emails every week at this point? So they also preserve them here in the notifications. So I can say, okay, I want to circle back and see what's been recently published. I think my last check was sometime in May or June. So I can go ahead and open up this notification. You view it here in the website, and when the notification comes to your email, it looks exactly the same. So you get the notification date. It starts with so it starts with the articles and book content, the most peer-reviewed stuff. It moves on to dissertations and then conferences. And then finally at the end, you have a PubMed section when you have any hits. So this is you're going to might get a really long list at the beginning, especially if your topic terms like mine are kind of broad. But, again, open the ones you're most interested in, and then every additional notification you get is going to be a little more tailored to you and what you're exploring. So again, feel free to sign up. Basically it'll prompt you to sign up if you go to this site and you haven't before. And again, the more you use the site, interact with the notifications or the recommended articles, the better the AI recommendations for you will be. And a reminder that this AI recommendations are based on PsycInfo data. So it is reliable and secure, and nobody is going to like sell your data or profit off you using our discovery tools. Okay. Super quick closing slides. Again, you have these files to download. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time opening the links, but just please take them with you and open the links at your leisure. Resources and training information, a little bit of what's new around for APA beyond these research services. We had a new thesaurus term update. So the summer one's been done and integrated. November one is upcoming. 2025 APA books e-collection. Oh, I can double down now and explain how a dissertation can be published in 2025. The reason is the same, that we're already publishing the 2025 APA books e-collection, that a lot of the publication year of an item does not always sync up with the calendar year. So APA begins our publishing year in August of 2024. And there are other publishers that do the same. So if something is released in the fall, you'll sometimes see it described as being published in the next calendar year. There are also cases where perhaps a dissertation or a journal article is set to be published in print early 2025, but the online version is released earlier. So you might be able sometimes to see a record that technically has the publication date of a future year. I hope that helps also answer how we were finding dissertations from the year 2025 in our first search. A new APA handbook. Again, you're able to order APA handbooks as single title purchases for your collection. For most of our APA books, you can't pick and choose, but handbook is an exception. If you want to buy just this single volume for your campus print and or e-version, that's available now. And psychotherapy, our collection of streaming video like therapy sessions, is adding new videos a couple times a year as well. We're getting a little later into the semester, but it's never too late if you want to promote APA databases on your campus, and also promote that it's your library providing that access. Yeah, so now it's time for Q&A. I'm going to minimize this in case we need to go back to looking at the screen. And I'm also going to type in this. So this is the best way to reach me with questions if you ever need to do so. I'm putting this in the chat here. Here we go. Even better, the database specific link. It's got like a searchable frequently asked questions, and then there's also a contact form. So myself and Patty, with a couple other colleagues, are the ones who monitor those emails. It's not a black box. We do check them daily. Again, my name is Marta Soto. If you want to address something to me in particular, I can pick it up. Otherwise, you know, Patty knows what I know. Oh yeah, thank you, Catherine, for putting that link actually in the outgoing chat. Okay, so hopefully you're still seeing the homepage, and I'm gonna look into the Q&A to see what's left.
Hey, Marta. So somebody had asked about Boolean search, about, I guess, doing Boolean search with this. And then I've got another one that I wanted to ask you about after that.
Yeah, I can see. So Laurie's question sounds a little bit specific. I wonder if,
yeah, she's not seeing any related content.
yeah, it could be a browser issue. Honestly, if you could like send us an email through that web form we just linked, if you're able to like attach a screenshot or like a screen recording of the error you see, we can try to troubleshoot that. Yeah, it's hard for me to troubleshoot unless I know sort of actually what the page looks like to you. But yeah, absolutely. If you think you counter any like bugs or things that aren't working, please let us know. So we can get in touch with the product team and get that resolved for you. Boolean search. Okay, so the answer is a little bit for Matt. There's a little bit of Boolean search. I'm going to go back to browse all dissertations. So we're going to basically just look at the numbers here. So one thing I did learn is that workplace health, so we can see our top hit there, 224.71 topics. But if I put it as a phrase in quotes, it's much more focused. So the quotes to search a phrase instead of 2 words side by side does work in here. Work and health versus work or health. So the and search was 4,700 topics. The or search is 6,500 topics. So the basic Booleans work. I don't necessarily think that like tons of parentheses or like near proximity operators are going to work, but you can do quotes, you can do and versus or. I mean, genuinely, if you want to do a search like that, I would recommend going to PsycInfo Classic database. That's going to be better able to accommodate very very specific types of searches that use Boolean. Whereas again, this is sort of the basics of discovery to get you sort of, again, connected to new topics and new related research quickly. So that's kind of why the two of them go together. But that's a great question. Some basic Boolean, yes. And again, if you have a more specific question, trying to get something work, you wish it was working, I can pass that on to the product team as well.
Hey, Marta, just sort of a follow-up question because it's from the same attendee.
Okay.
So how much, I'm trying to think, I know that obviously we can search APA index terms. How much can we get detailed with the keywords? Like I know, trying to remember how much this is based on just index terms versus like author keywords. Can you search author keywords?
So when you search here, it's not directly corresponding to keywords or thesaurus terms. What you're searching here is topics, which is sort of AI enhanced search that is based on thesaurus and keywords. Does that make sense?
It does to me. It sounds like if somebody wants to do more of a keyword search, then it better to go back to the classic database, like you said.
I mean, I feel like the strategies you would use for a keyword search are also going to work
Yep.
here. And depending what platform you're on, sometimes the keyword search pulls in multiple fields anyway. Like sometimes a keyword search in the classic database already is going to additionally pull in like thesaurus subjects. So yeah, there's not a way here to purely search the author's keywords. But again, this is offered as a sort of an alternate set of tools. Like you already have the like sort of classic field by field metadata exact match searching capability in PsycInfo. So what we're offering here is more of the AI discovery layer, finding connections between things that may or may not be picked up in the strict PsycInfo search, and also presenting them in a sort of more intuitive, visually designed way compared to how the classic database is set up. When was this service launched? I think it became open to the public maybe 1.5-ish years ago. There was sort of like a soft launch for a while. We are still in discussion with the vendor platforms about how best to link research services. For now, I mean, if you're a librarian, you can just add the URL directly to like an A to Z database list right alongside the classic PsycInfo or the PsycArticles link. Just put the link there and say PsycInfo Research Services, and that's sort of the best way to get awareness, because yeah, it is not directly linked from PsycInfo Classic at this time. I saw somebody ask for the slides in the chat. They should be there, but if somebody's not seeing them, especially if you joined a little later, we can share again. From Anonymous, yeah, at this time, the authentication email is the way to go. I can try to dig up. It would take me a couple minutes, but I could find for you like which email you would need to add to your account, like which email address that the email verification code like comes from. Tell you what, I'm going to take a pause on looking for Q&A, and I'm going to dig up this one answer for you real quick. Yeah, providing the email address that this would actually come from, so you can sort of add it to saved or avoid missing it. But yeah, there is no alternate authentication method at this time. I can suggest that to product. Writing that down now. And I'm gonna go try to dig up right, the password. I mean the email that is the PsycInfo Research Services trying to contact you. Oh, it looks like somebody else has provided the answer. Thank you, anonymous attendee. Sending this to the chat now. PsycInfo notices at apa.org is where that email code might come from. Thank you so much for that. I see Catherine has flagged that she would like to answer some of these questions live. I can certainly stop talking and like let Catherine take it over. Do you want me to stop screen sharing also?
No, Marta, go ahead. I just wanted to flag these questions for you. We have a new question from Matt Kramer asking, can someone have several different topics being monitored at the same time? I see Patty's also in the process of answering.
Gotcha. So not at this time, unless you happen to have multiple institutional emails. That is something that has come up before.
You mean different topics? My understanding of this was that he was asking about different topics. Like I feel like I have different topics in my research profile, and I'm getting notifications for different kinds of things, unless I'm misunderstanding his question.
Oh, I see.
Like I have resilience and I have mindfulness in there in my profile, and I'm getting notifications for both.
Exactly. So if the topics are like part of the same search string, then absolutely putting in more topics is better to get better recommendations. But if you're talking about, I'm running one research project that's about like sleep hygiene, and I'm running another research project that's about like remote work and loneliness, it would be hard to like search them side by side in the same like research profile, if that makes sense. So yeah, definitely the more keywords about your search topic you can put into your preferences, the better your recommendations will be. But if you have two completely separate like research profiles or research questions, it might be difficult to use these tools for both simultaneously. I hope that also answers the question.
Marta, while we're waiting for any further questions, are there any other tips and tricks you'd like to share with this tool?
I don't know. I mean, we can take it to the audience. I could briefly show Explore Journal, or I could show Citation Mapper. We covered those earlier in the spring, but I know not everybody was there for that.
Yeah, we could briefly show Citation Mapper since it is related to the other tools that we demonstrated earlier.
Citation Mapper would be cool. All right, let's do it. So I'll go again back to my recently viewed mechanisms of mindfulness. So we looked at a topic mapper, we looked at an author mapper, and the third related mapper tool is Citation Mapper. So you can see at first blush, it does look a little, once it loads, it does look a little bit like author mapper because it's got those thick blue lines connecting everybody. Oh my gosh, only the most 200 recent publications. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. We picked a guy who was like very popular in his, like he had, I mean, his output of publishing was a lot. So legend here, right? So we have arrows going in two ways to show that citation relationship. The arrow is always pointing toward the, oh my gosh, I can do this. Right, the arrow is sort of always pointing toward the past, I believe. I'm going to find a different example because this one is like a solar system and they're usually a little more different. So sorry about that. Please bear with. Okay, yeah, this is a little more like what I was looking for, Citation Mapper. Okay, so you can actually see the arrows are pointing toward the past. Newer documents are darker and like more citations are bigger. So it works in kind of the same way. You can hover to see how this node is connected to others. You can select it and learn a little bit more about that reference. If I double click it, we get a whole new citation mapper. So sort of the same mechanics of exploration. This might be another monster graph being generated. Up another monster graph. So yeah, those are like the different shapes you might find in a cited references mapper. And again, you have the option to like export the tools based on the author who's in the middle. And you have the same kind of filters where we could like change it by year or by content type to focus down a little better. Are there ways to export citation for several articles together at a time? Right, so export cited references for the citation mapper and for the topic mapper, it's going to give you the top 50 in one document. And that feature is coming soon for author mapper. It's just not been fully implemented, but we do intend for it to be there. So I just, if I open this up and drag it over here, yeah, so with one click I've got, oh, it's not top 50, it's top 200. I think somewhere else has a top 50. It's actually top 200. So yeah, this was just export for this author, and that's what I got. Okay. One final thing, explore journal. So this tool is kind of like, it's so instead of browsing all dissertations, this is how you can sort of go through one journal. It's got a little more options and it's got a little more information, right? So from a record page, I can choose those 3 different mappers, topic, citation, or author, or I can also, I click that link to explore the journal. So at the top, you're getting a bunch of information about the journal. Top-cited. This is the one that exports, oh, 250, my goodness. Another place to export a bunch of top-cited from a journal, topical coverage. Again, this is the AI topic. It does not directly map to a keyword or a thesaurus. It kind of integrates them both. So this analyze and filter tool is looking a little bit the same as what we saw with dissertations, but now we're also getting content types and methodologies. So most journals are going to include some information that's not like a direct peer-reviewed research article. You know, you have editorials, you have book reviews, things like that. So you have the option to filter down by content. And again, when you're in a journal instead of a dissertation, you can filter by methodology. I love this field on PsycInfo Classic. It can be a very good way to kind of quickly focus on results. You can show just literature reviews or just focus groups. You have the option to sort by time cited when you're in the journal. And again, we're seeing, let me actually just go back to where we were because we were seeing a variety. Yeah, so we've got some of these view PDF links, in this case, open access. So yeah. Again, I feel like the tools are pretty intuitive to discover on your own. So I'll recommend you do that. And as just a reminder, for a journal article, I can select a title to go to the journal record page, and then I can select this journal tool to take me back to the journal page. So I sort of see the journal page as existing kind of halfway in between the record level and like the discover level. It's got specific information for the journal like a record page, but it's also got the analyze and filter tools like a discover page. We're quite near the top of the hour now, so thank you all for being here, spending some time. I hope you learned something. If nothing else, I hope you learned that you already have access to this and can start exploring today. It looks like we handled all the questions live, but if something comes up later, again, feel free to send that email and we can get back to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Marta, for your expertise. Once again, if you have any questions for us, please email us. We have links and email addresses in the chat. Thank you again for joining us. The recording will be available soon via email as well as uploaded to our YouTube channel. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.